Welcome listeners to episode 13 of the Running Guide podcast, where I aim to provide informative content and interviews with elite athletes from around the world, like in today's episode where I'm chatting to a guy who's certainly been gaining much deserved recognition with his performances over the last couple of years as a runner. Welcome to the Running Guide podcast, Reece Edwards.
Thanks, mate. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. It's good to be talking to you. Now, you just come back from Noosa up there for the Triathlon Festival and the 5K Bolt. How'd that go up there?
I actually I decided to go on vacation. I had entered it before I did Melbourne Marathon, but I was mainly going, and my missus, she ran the Bolt. I think she was 8th overall or something like that, or maybe 9th, and my brother did the triathlon, so I ended up being bag boy and enjoyed a vacation for once.
Okay. So your girlfriend, what's her name?
Michelle Pearson, yeah.
Okay.
So she ran 17:22 or something like that. I think she exploded a little bit, but yeah, she did well.
Okay, and she ran that before?
No, that was her first time. So she's kind of really improved just in the last 9 to 12 months. So this was the first time she was, had a time that she was able to run it. So she enjoyed it.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what's the qualifying time for the women to run that?
Oh, geez, you pushed me here. Maybe 20 minutes, under 20 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
She was running a park run in about 23 minutes only 18 months ago, and now I think she ran a 16:58 not that long ago, so she's improved a lot.
Wow, you helping out there, I bet?
Every now and then. She's an early bird, mate, so she's up at 4:30 doing her sessions, and I'm still in bed, but every now and then.
But are you writing up the sessions for her, or is she getting help from somebody else?
No, so she's now getting help from Run Crew, so Gary Howard there. So she was kind of every, Monday night she would ask me, what session should I do in the morning? And I wasn't much help, to be honest with her. So yeah, she's actually, just in the last 2 weeks, she's now coached by Run Crew.
Okay, fantastic. And have you run the Bolt before?
No, I've never done it. And watching it was really good to watch. So yeah, I might have a crack in the future.
Yeah, and it's on in the afternoon, so it can be pretty warm up there in Noosa that time of year. Was it pretty hot or?
Yeah, it was really hot. Like I was sitting on the sidelines. I was like I was just standing there. I was like, man, I'm happy I'm not running this. I know it's only 5K, but it was warm. And you're on the sun. It was about 3:10 or something, maybe, or 4 o'clock they started. Yeah, but it was warm.
Yeah. Incredible atmosphere. It'd have to be one of the best games around the country, I'd say.
Yeah, you look at that and you go, like, it'd be nice for them to make that, say, like an Australian road 5K champs or something like that, and put some more prize money on for the real top elite guys, and women, because it has a really, really good atmosphere. It has, everything to be a real big event.
It is, and with all the triathletes there, I mean, it's the crowd that makes it. Obviously, they do a really good job with the announcers and that, and the setup, and it's a circuit loop, so everyone gets to see the runners all the time. But just having that crowd there, it's just awesome. Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, those 4 laps, it makes it all of it is so good.
Yeah, it goes to show what we can do with the sport and what we need to do. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Now, I found out you used to play state hockey for New South Wales. So if you tell us about that, and then we're going to move on to, you had a bit of a chapter there in triathlons as well, but start with the hockey. How did that, were you pretty young when you started that, or?
Yeah, so I was up in a little town called Murwillumbah on like the Tweed border, and it just happened to be a hockey town, and I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and one of my brothers started playing hockey, and mum and dad, and hockey's always in the same location every week, whereas soccer was, you have to drive to towns, and mum and dad thinking, with 4 boys, you don't want to be driving here, there and everywhere. They made us all play hockey. So got into it young, and then I only represented New South Wales really in the school stuff in primary school. I was kind of always borderline state, I guess you'd say. Like I've done like some of the camps and things like that for NSWIS and things like that. So I grew up doing all hockey and, played city country and all those sort of things and state champs and that. But, at 18 years of age, you have 2 choices. You move to Sydney or Perth, or you go get a job. And I chose to kind of give up on hockey.
Okay. What, any of your brothers continue it on, or?
Yeah, most of them still, 2 of them still play. One of them, number 3, so the brother just older than me, he played New South Wales hockey all the way through up to under 21s, and he moved to Newcastle and then was playing first grade Sydney, and he pursued it to a certain point, and he he had an opportunity to kind of go overseas, and he could have really potentially done it, but he ended up becoming a sonographer and went almost the career path instead of the sport path. But I've got some really good mates that are in the Kookaburra side at the moment, so it's still good to see them kind of get the results for everything they sacrifice.
Yeah, for sure. So 18, you sort of stopped that chapter, and then is that when the triathlons begun, or?
Yeah, well, actually, it's funny. Yeah, so I stopped at 18, and I was watching the Tour de France one night. I'm like, oh, this cycling thing looks pretty cool. So I got on my bike, and I actually got into cycling. I was probably into cycling for about, nearly 18 months, 2 years, and I probably spent more time crashing than actually riding my bike. I've come down. There's a mountain up here called Dorrigo Mountain. I come off at 75 k's an hour, and there's a criterium race at Armidale, and I've raced it 3 times and crashed twice. So had a short-lived cycling kind of career there from 18 to kind of 20. Okay. And then I guess after that was when I made the decision where I still like riding my bike. I'm not very good at handling a bike. So that's when I decided, maybe I'll have a go at triathlons, because triathletes were renowned for not being able to handle a bike and just ride in straight lines. So, yeah, that's kind of what led me to triathlons. Probably, I'd say I got into them 2021 probably.
Okay. Yeah. What years are we talking there?
I would have been... that year, that would have been, about 2010, okay. 2011, I would have got into that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right, yeah. And how'd you go in the water? I mean, a lot of runners can't run, but you weren't necessarily a runner at this stage, but... I mean, you're pretty tall, you're pretty lean, you've got the long levers. I can imagine you move reasonably well.
I swam good for an age grouper,
okay.
Bad for an elite.
Sure.
So I was in that awkward stage where if I raced in my age group, I could come out of the water first. If I raced in the elites, I would miss the main pack.
Sure.
But yeah. I'd say average swimmer.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So from the triathlons, what made you start to think about the running?
So it would have been 2014. I moved from Coffs, where I was doing my first degree and things like that. I moved down to Canberra to study physiotherapy. And when I first moved down there, I joined PTC, so like a local triathlon group down there. And that was my plan, just to keep doing triathlons. And I picked up what they call your pro license, but let's be honest, it's not really necessary. But I picked that up when I first moved down there, and I actually did triathlons to about 2000 and, it must be nearly 15, 16. I did it for about 18 months when I moved to Canberra, and what ended up happening was the degree got too much, where I just couldn't train for 3 disciplines and do the degree. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, so I needed more time to study, less time to train. So one of the fellas in my degree happened to be training with Dick Telford, and he said, come along to one of our run squads, and I turned up, got absolutely walloped, but I just kept turning up, and that's where I got to now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, training under the guidance of Dick Telford must have been amazing. Pretty educational experience, along with the other elite runners who train in Team Telford, it's called, isn't it?
They call it Team Telford.
Yeah, sure. If you could share with the listeners on a few of the, the training principles and philosophies that you would have learnt training under Dick and with those athletes that you pretty much have impacted you and you'll probably carry on for the rest of your career.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest thing I picked up from Dick was pretty well get 10K fit and you can run anything. Yeah. And he worked on pretty much two systems really, where it was kind of, he would either say you're on the knife's edge, aka you're running right on threshold, so that 10K type pace, or he'd say I want you puffing steadily, and that's kind of your half marathon pace. So he pretty much taught us those two. He pretty much taught me how to pace myself and what I could get out. So he's really playing with that red line and knowing, if you cross that red line, bad things happen. So he really increased that aerobic capacity big time, and just everything that Dick does is just smashes you on get your 10K fit, and that's from the 800, 1500 metre boys to the marathon boys. Everyone I would say 9 months of the year, it's all about 10K fit.
No, that's interesting. So yeah, just work at that threshold, but don't cross the line. And you would have been doing some reasonable volume as well. I mean, Dick likes his volume as well as that quality.
Yeah, absolutely. I was fortunate enough. I've never had any serious injuries, and I was probably about 18 months into just running, and I was probably already running 200 Ks a week, I would say.
Whoa, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So no, not bad mileage, and I wouldn't even say I was the biggest mileage man in the group either.
Yeah, okay. Right, yeah. So you're either running at threshold or you're running volume. Okay. And
absolutely.
I see some 10Ks there. You've 2017, 18, and 19. You've ran 10K in 30 minutes something, as in sub 31. So I imagine you'd love to crack a sub 30 in the not too distant future.
Yeah, no, you've hit my spot. So this is the one that kills me.
Yeah.
So the 10K kills me. So I think my PB, I think on my IAAF profile, maybe it's 30:02, but it's about 30:01, 30:02. That's my PB, and those couple of seconds or second and a half absolutely kill me. And it's the one thing that I love to wipe off my my result sheet and finally go sub, because I think I've run sub 31, so in the 30 minutes. I would say I'd be close to 10 times maybe, but I've never gone sub 30.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm just having a look at where that 10,000 is. Yeah, 30:02, that's right. We'll touch on that because I'm going to touch on your PBs. Now, have you run Zatopek? I mean, if you're a solid 10K, have you been down there for the Nationals?
No, I never run Zatopek, so I don't really say, I'm not in that level. I really don't think I'm in the level of those sort of guys. You've got your guys that are probably in low to sub 29 shape that end up, by the look of it, they run 29 mid because they go out harder. And then you have your boys that, are going 27, and it just would not be a race that is in my kind of level. I really think that's a whole nother step up, to be perfectly honest.
Yep, no, for sure. So what I'll do is I'll read out your PBs on the track and road. For all us running geeks who love our numbers. So it is from your IAAF profile page. Sometimes they're not correct, so jump in if they're not. And I might get you to tell us about if you have any stories or memories of each of these races that you did. Sometimes there's some good stories behind them. So I'll start with the first 3,000 metre. This is in Sydney, October 2017. You ran 8:38:29. Any memories of that event?
I just remember driving up to Bankstown on a Thursday night and having a horrible run, and then getting a feed at Macca's afterwards to drown my sorrows. Nothing special about that one.
Rightio, so it's a PB you'd like to get rid of.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sure, rightio. So we've got 5,000 metres down in Melbourne, March 2017. That's 14:36:08.
Yeah, I was stoked with that one at the time. I think it was only a month earlier. I'd never actually run under 15 minutes. But I raced the New South Wales B race at the State 5, and I went 14:48. And then that would have been a month later. And I really thought, if I could go around that 14:40 mark, I'd be happy again. So I was really stoked with that result that night, actually. But I haven't raced a 5,000. I think I've raced one 5,000 since then. But yeah, I was actually really happy with that race. But yeah.
Okay. 10K we got in Sydney in May 2018, 30:02. So that's that PB you were talking about. Yeah. So
that one stings.
Yeah. Is that May? Is that part of the? It's not the Sydney Herald half marathon weekend, or is that a separate 10K? Is that the Sydney 10 that May?
Yeah, so it's the one run by New South Wales Athletics, so the Sydney 10 out at Olympic Park in Homebush there.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's a quick course. So I have no excuses not going sub there.
Yeah.
That stings. I was in a group, I think, of, I can't remember, maybe six of us, and we're in the group with 2K to go, and I think 4 or 5 of them, they all went, ended up maybe 29:40 to 29. They went well and truly under, and I was just a bit soft, and I just let them go too early. But
yeah. I know that course. I mean, I assume I know that course. It's I did the half up there not long ago, and that was 5 laps of like a, or was it 4 laps of a 5k loop? But yeah,
Oh, geez, they do the same course for a
yeah,
half. Oh.
yeah,
I mean, I guess it's fast. And then, yeah.
yeah. There's a little hairpin corner, and you got to head up the hill again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, it was halfway up that hill. I cracked off the front boys, and that cost me.
Yeah, okay, couldn't pull them back. Yeah, because then they go down and chuck a left, and they're away. Okay,
Yeah.
half marathon up on the Goldie last year, 2018, 65:37. Pretty solid.
Yeah, so I've run faster. So I actually ran over in Philadelphia last September. So this was a month before my marathon PB. I ran Philadelphia half marathon. I went 65:12.
Okay.
But yeah, so just a little bit quicker.
Right, yeah. And yeah, so and then the marathon, we'll probably touch on this a little bit further. Well, we may. No, before we move on to the marathon, I see here you ran 66 even in Sydney a couple of months just before that PB up on the Goldie.
Yeah.
And there was only 40 seconds separating the top 5. I actually watched a video the other day, and it looked like you were trying to pull in Andy Buchanan at the end there. But when I was watching the race, you guys were all you had a good little group going out front. So did anyone sort of put the pressure on, or was it just natural attrition that it sort of broke up towards the end, or was there any tactics going on there?
So Hugh Williams paced the whole thing to about 15. Well, he didn't pace it. He was racing, but he raced on the front, and everyone just sat behind him, even though he's a very small frame, so it wasn't helpful. But he pretty well set the pace for the race until the 15-kilometre mark. And then Joel Tobin White, you could tell he was comfortable and he just left at the 15k mark up a hill. He literally just gapped us straight away, and Liam Adams tried to follow him. I'm not sure if I think Liam may have got across to him, but then ended up getting dropped by him. And then I was pretty much in a fight with Hugh, Andy Buchanan. We were kind of going back and forth really until near the end. And I overtook Andy with about 18-kilometre mark, and I thought I'd gapped him, and then he came back around me with probably 800 metres to go. He came up to my side, and I was trying to hang, and then he just out-kicked me.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a real fun race, actually, that one.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought. I thought those boys look like they're having fun out there in a funny type of way. It's good when you get races like that. You know, you go there to race and you want to be in a group and you all want to be hurting. It's a lot more fun that way rather than everyone sort of be out single file and have those big gaps, whereas it becomes more like a time trial than an actual race.
Yeah, I agree. I reckon sometimes seeing a course that, like, so many people don't go to that race because they think it's a slow course, but sometimes slow courses, like, you have so much more fun and the racing so much more interesting, and you can go back for more and you can still run quick times. I think Michael Shelley's run 63 on that, and Pat Carroll's on 61, so you can still run fast on it. But I think it's literally the course that stops big numbers of people turning up to it.
Yeah.
I reckon they're more fun, those sort of courses.
Yeah, it's not always about breaking PBs every time. It's about going there to get a good race, and that's clearly what you guys got. So, yeah, for sure. All right, so let's jump over to the marathon. Last year, pretty big result. Chicago, 2:16:43. That's huge. First Aussie home in 21st place. Becoming a 2:16 guy. So, let us know what your expectations were before the race. I mean, were you even thinking you're in that sort of form, and sort of what happened during the race?
I guess when I decided to do the marathon, at that stage, my half marathon PB was 68. So originally my goal was to run as close to, as low 220 as possible. And then training had kind of been going perfectly. I did that half that we just talked about, Sydney Morning Herald. And then I ran Gold Coast in 65:30 odd. And then I'd finished my degree, and I decided to take 10 weeks between my degree and starting work to just go pretty much have a training holiday. And I went over to Colorado with a mate who now owns a house over there, Dan Wallace, and I was over there for 10 weeks with him, and another Kiwi lives in London, Tony Payne, was there for the first about month, and then Hugh Williams came over for the last month. But throughout that training camp, I guess my goal of trying to run a low 220, about 2 weeks into that training camp, I was like, maybe I could run a sub 220. That'd be pretty damn cool. And then it was probably about 4 weeks out from the marathon. I was like, I've had a real good day. I could maybe run 2:18. And I was saying the boys were kind of who we were living with over there, like, what's your goal? I was like, as long as I run sub 2:20, I'm a happy man. So I guess by the end of it, I was really thinking, I've had a good day. I could run 2:18, but I also had no fear, and I felt like I was fit. So I was just going to find a group that I thought was comfortable, and I was just going to run as hard as I could, and I probably went out slightly too fast.
Can you remember what you went through the half in?
Yeah, so I went through the half in 67:28, and I was with one other guy at that stage, and it was a weird feeling. I felt like it was really, really easy, but at the same time, I was like, I feel like I may have. A lot of people told me prior to the marathon, you'll feel good at halfway, but not just because you feel good there, at 30, 35K, it will all change. And I was kind of running through there halfway, and I was like, this is too easy, right? Like 67:28, I was like, because if my goal was sub 2:20, I was like, I can blow up real bad here and still be a happy man and enjoy some beers tonight. So, yeah, that was my halfway split.
And you obviously must have responded pretty well to the altitude then. I mean, you're only there a few weeks and you're suddenly thinking you can run quicker. I mean, some people respond better than others. Do you think that helped a lot?
Yeah, so I think I'm a massive responder to altitude, actually, after doing that camp, because I raced Philadelphia half that is now the PB that I was talking about earlier, and I ran 190 kilometres that week, and I raced that on the Sunday, so within a 190 kilometre week, and I ran through 5K in 14:42, which is almost my 5K PB. And then I ran through 10K in 30:05 or 30:06, which was almost my 10K PB. And then I ended up obviously fading, but I would not have thought I was in that sort of shape, and that pretty well came off 4 weeks of altitude.
Yeah, I know. What sort of volume were you doing? And you must have had a good group to train with.
Yeah, so we're doing massive volume. I would have hit, other than I did 2 other races pre-Chicago whilst I was in the States. Other than those 2 weeks, I would have hit for about 6 weeks there. I would have been over 220.
Okay. Yep.
We had a nice group of anywhere from kind of 4 to 6 guys. It fluctuates. Some sessions you're solo, but we always had somebody to run with.
Yeah. And is the structure of those weeks different to the standard Aussie marathon training structure that was sort of, I guess, Deeks and Moners put together all those years ago? Monday, Wednesday, Friday easy, and sessions Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and long run Sunday. Is it a bit different than that over there, or?
Now, for Chicago, that was the exact build-up. Yeah. So it was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday sessions, and then a long run on the Sunday. So that we went the old school approach.
Yeah, okay. And putting some marathon pace effort in the long run or towards the end of the long run?
No, we didn't. We did not do that in Chicago, and I'd do it now.
Yeah,
that's one thing we didn't do that I would definitely want to do from now on.
Okay, well that gets rid of my next question. Moving on to the next one. What's your usual nutrition strategies? Leading into the race.
So my nutrition is real bad. So before Chicago, I had deep dish pizza the night before. If anyone's had deep dish pizza before, they know it's not a small quantity of cheese in that. So I eat anything and whatever I can find. I have no rules.
Okay.
No rules at all.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And what about the morning of?
Morning of, once again, changes. It's whatever grocery shop or convenience shops nearby. It's normally some sort of bready type thing. Like Chicago was like a bagel with peanut butter. Something down that sort of line. Melbourne was a good breakfast. I couldn't find bread or bagels the night before, so I did half a packet of Leamington fingers. So
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So it doesn't look like you're superstitious and you have to eat the exact same thing every time. It's yeah. Maybe that'll
No,
come in the years to come. Yeah.
yeah, honestly, it's probably a very, very weak point of me.
Yeah.
I need someone to probably help me on that aspect and actually guide
Mm.
me because yeah, it's not my background. I just do whatever.
Yeah. What about during the race? Are you certain product you're using? You got so many, how do you go with your nutrition there? Do you drink so much per hour? You have your own special needs?
Um, so with the marathon, like Chicago, I wasn't an elite runner, so I had no special bottles. So I just drank what was on course.
Yep.
So that was just like Gatorade and water. I carried 5 gels in my hands. I had 4 in my hands and 1 in a pocket.
Mm.
So I carried them. I used the Morton gels for Chicago. They just, they were all the hype. They did real great marketing. I don't know. They go down well, I guess you could say.
Mm.
But yeah, I just drank what was on. I had no rules of how much I was taking. I literally see a drink station about 5K, 6K mark, put a gel down, grab the water, grab Gatorade, wet my mouth, and that was it. I kind of went for simple is better most of the time. And but yeah, then I raced Lake Biwa Marathon. I didn't race. I raced about 15K. Then it was a shocker. But Biwa, this is my nutrition me. I just don't take it serious. So Biwa was probably the big eye-opening moment where we ran through 6K, and I remember Julian Spence kind of saying, about swapping positions so we could like work out getting our bottles easy. And I was like, I don't want to get a bottle. It's only 6K in, and I didn't have a drink or a gel or anything until about 12.5Ks or 11Ks into Biwa. And I mean, there's 1,000 things. But yeah, that was just. I honestly thought I could run a marathon at that stage on probably 2 gels and a little bit of water leading into Biwa, but I learnt the hard way.
Okay. Yep, for sure. Mate, let's step away from the marathon running for a while. Now, I want to talk about your little trail escapades over there in New Zealand in February this year, where you not only competed in the Tarawera 102k ultramarathon, but you won the bloody thing. And in the process, been a couple of world's best trail runners. That is Cody Reed from the US and good old Harry Jones from the UK. So, first of all, tell us about your decision that came about wanting to run a 100k trail race and how that day unfolded.
I was training. I was in America, and one of the guys we were training with was telling me a story of doing the Leadville 100. And he was just pacing another fella in the Leadville 100, and he was telling me all these stories and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And then the fella that I was staying with, he's a Kiwi, and I kind of just there and then I was sitting in my bed. I was like, you know what? I entered it. I was like, I felt fit. I felt invincible whilst I was, not working and training. And I entered it just as an everyday person about a month out from Chicago, so in the September. And I always said in the back of my head, I probably won't do it, but I just entered it because I thought it'd sell out and things like that. And I didn't never really train because I was like, I did Chicago, and then after Chicago I was tired, so I rested for about 3 to 4 weeks, and I was kind of, settling into full-time work and all that sort of business. And I was like, I just won't do tarot. I think it was the end of November, and I was like, I should probably send an email or that I'm going to pull out, or I just won't turn up type thing. And then David Byrne had let it slip to the organisers that there was a 2:16 guy ran 2:16 at Chicago, has entered your race as an everyday person. And I got this random email probably mid-December saying, we would actually like you to join, and we'd like to put you on the elite page of our website, and things like that. And it was at that moment where I was like, oh man, do I have to last minute commitment here, or do I just say no? And unfortunately, I'm a yes man. Yeah. And I couldn't say no. And I'm like, yeah, sure, put me on the page. And next minute I was like, I've got about 6 or 7 weeks to train for this bloody thing.
So tell me about it, mate. Like, let's...
The training.
No, tell me about the day. I mean, like, you're talking about just done a great marathon in Chicago. You were sort of umming and ahhing whether you should do it. The organisers have promoted you. You had to go over there and perform. What happened?
Yeah. Well, I guess the lucky thing for me was no one expected me to perform. Every single person was like, "Oh, yeah, I've got a decent marathon time," but really, it's not world class. It's not even international. Like it's really not that good of a time in a way. And everyone was saying, "Oh, he's 216," but they're kind of like no one expected me to be able to run more than maybe 50, 60 kilometers at the most. I think most people kind of thinking, he'll be walking by 60 or he'll pull out, that sort of mentality, and he just won't be able to do it. And when I was 18, 19, back to those cycling days we spoke about earlier, there was a gentleman around here, and he was a great cyclist, but I would go out for 220, 240, sometimes 280 kilometre rides, would ride for 8 to 10 hours. And the amount of times I had what you call hunger flat or bonked, and because I hadn't eaten enough food and things like that, I'd probably done that 20, 30 times cycling from 18 to 20. And going to Tarawera, my body, I reckon, remembered those cycling events. And I got to, 45 Ks, I was fine. And then the trail got technical and things like that. But I was able to just kind of eat my nutrition. I think just kind of fight through it. But yeah, I think the cycling days helped there. But the actual race, 45 Ks, the first feed station, I think 45K. That I was really comfortable in that zone there. Cody Reed took off really early in the single track, about 4K in. I think just to prove a point to myself and Ash Watson that we're trail guys, you're a road guy, you can't run technical terrain, because he put 30 seconds into us in this single technical terrain at the start. And then I caught back up to him about 10 Ks in, and we just slowly caught back up. And then about 25 Ks in, and I thought, I'll just go to the front. And I ran with Cody to that 45, and then he got away from me in the technical stuff. From 45 to about 70, he was gapping me, I believe, or 60. But I got to a point at about 65 Ks in, and I was just done. I was over it. I was walking up this hill. I was just like, this sucks. I was just waiting for the next person to overtake me. And I was just like, any moment now, people are going to come past me. I was just in road shoes. I was in and just like racing flats, and I just couldn't run the downhills. The routes were annoying me. The trail was annoying. Everything just went to a real kind of just suck, to be honest. And I was like, and I was just thinking, what am I doing? Like, this is just a stupid idea. But it wasn't that I was going to ever stop. I was always going to finish, no matter what. It didn't matter if I finished first or last. I was always going to finish. That's just how I was brought up. And I was about 70 odd Ks in, and I'd been walking. I swear I'd been walking for a while, and someone said to me, "You're 4 minutes behind, and the guy looks horrible up in front." And I thought to myself, I've been walking and just been like thinking, I've given up here, and I'm only 4 minutes behind. So I was like, I'll just jog a bit and see what happens. And I jogged it to the next aid station, I think 78 Ks in, and they said, you're 3 minutes behind. I thought, really? I only jogged about 8 Ks, and I just brought back a minute. And then I left that, and I thought, let's just run and see what happens here. And I ran a bit more, and the organisers came up to me at one point, and they just said, "Mate, you're a minute 40 behind. You're closing fast." And I was thinking, wow, who would have thought here? And by 85 Ks, I came into a blue lake, the aid station there, and there Cody was standing there. And at that stage, I was thinking, oh, right, I come in the aid station after him, and I just pretty well smashed a Red Bull and just went. I was out of there in about 10 seconds. And my goal was, I've come in after him. If I leave before him, maybe obviously he's having in a bad way right now if I've closed in on him. And that last kind of, whatever it is, 12 Ks or 15 Ks, I actually felt pretty good, and I was back running decent again. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole race, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a bit like Western States where, guys like you who can move pretty well on the roads and the flat trails can do well, and maybe that helped you out, that it's not the most technical ultra trail in the world. And like I said, Cody got away from you in the technical section, but that you were able to pull him in when it was runnable. But that's a good effort, mate. So what, you got to head back now and defend the title, or what?
That's the magic question right now.
I mean, isn't it the rule? Once you win a title, it's out of respect. You got to go back and defend it, or?
Yeah, 100%. And then they have contacted me, and currently I have said yes. I haven't started training for it. Morally, I feel like I have to go back, and I feel like I've got a lot more to give. I think to be honest, I feel like I got lucky. I got really lucky. It was a hot day. Everyone else was just falling apart around me. I got lucky. So, do I really want to run 100 Ks again? No, I don't. But I probably will.
Well, we're moving on to the next thing. But if you had a ran to 11:30 in Melbourne, then maybe you would have a spot for the Olympics, and you wouldn't have to worry about going back. But let's talk about you ran at 2:19, so it's still a good effort, and finished third overall. Obviously, your training is still going pretty well since you moved up there, and Coffs Harbour is going pretty good. Was your training any different leading into Melbourne? What was the plan? What were you hoping to do down there? And how was your training leading into Melbourne compared to Chicago?
So training was a complete polar opposite. I was working full time. I'm doing split shifts as well. So, I might work 7 till about 1 or 2 in the day, and then I'd go back to work about 4:35 and work till about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So I had a choice where you do your session really early in the morning, which then allows you to double run, or I do my session in my split, so in the middle of the day, and then I didn't really double run. So Melbourne training wasn't great. I think on average I was probably around 120 to 130 Ks a week, simply because I was just, I struggled to get out of bed in the morning. So I was doing my sessions midday, 2 o'clock, and then by the time 9 o'clock, 8:30 rolled around, I just didn't feel like I was worth going out for that extra 8-10 Ks. So the big difference there from Melbourne to previous was volume was right down, but the sessions still got done.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the future plans for marathon running then from today onwards? Let's talk about next year.
It's a tricky one. I think Melbourne's probably as good as I can get whilst I train solo up here in Coffs Harbour. I honestly don't think I think if I keep doing what I'm doing regarding my work, regarding my training, I think I'm only going to be I'm always going to be talking about Chicago back in 2018 as my PB. So I think next year I'm currently talking with my partner, and we're discussing relocating maybe to London, Sydney, somewhere like that, where I can get back into a group situation and see if that helps. I'm not somebody that can just train full time. I need to work. I need an outlet. So I'll make a move next year. Haven't confirmed it yet, but most likely London or Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the magic number that Reece has got in his head that he'd love to do in a marathon? Is there a number, or just to keep getting faster, or is there a number you think, if that was my final number and that was on the PB list, I'd be extremely excited.
If I went under 212, you wouldn't see me run another marathon. I'd be done. You'd see me do an Ironman. I literally wouldn't run another one. It'd be all. I don't think it'll ever happen.
Yep. Sub 215's the next plan then, is it, or?
Yeah. So next year, going back to those sort of plans, goal is I'll try and take some time off work potentially and try and run a fast and get into a training camp environment. Yeah, I'll turn up, and so I guess you do it incrementally, right? So sub 215 would be nice. To be honest, I probably need to get back down to 217 first before I think about 215. But hopefully next year I'm back around that 216, 215 mark.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I always like to give the listeners something else to take away from the interviews, besides all the great insights I get from the guests. So if we start with combining your profession as a physiotherapist and elite runner, what are some of the routines that you feel that us runners need to implement sort of within our training schedule to help sort of aid recovery and minimise the risk of overuse injuries and fatigue?
Yeah, so I guess through what I see around here, especially with a lot of runners, is especially injury wise, you look at a lot of runners and they get injured after they've had a break, and a lot of people like to completely rest. And everyone has a go at, say, I'm high volume, or Dick Telford's athletes are high volume, but a lot of evidence out there, if you can combine some sort of strength training 2 to 3 times a week and just maintain a nice progressive load, and you never completely rest. So resting where you just, I'm going to take 2 or 3 weeks off running altogether, and then you're going to get back into it. It's always that first month or that 2 weeks where your body's starting to adapt to that load again. Mm-hmm. That's when injuries always happen and niggles always happen. Mm-hmm. And you see it especially around here, and a lot of the locals around here, they get a little niggle and they just stop running. They think, I'm just going to completely rest. Then all they're doing is they've done 2 weeks of good training, they get a niggle, they have 2 more weeks of rest, and then they try to go again, and they have this vicious cycle of rest, niggle, and they never really get going. And if they just kind of deloaded and did less volume or changed their intensity, they're throughout that kind of period where they've got a little niggle, the niggle will most likely, if it's soft tissue, it's going to settle anyway. And before you know, you put 1, 2, 3 months consistency together, and you're running a lot faster by simply not rest, like having too much rest in a way.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a lot of research come out. Obviously, you'd be all over it, but for us runners to learn about how we're told to treat, call it tendinopathy, and it was about, do you rest or do you load it, and all that sort of thing. But yeah, you can back up this, but they're saying, you don't necessarily rest the tendons. It's just about, like you said, deload and keep some sort of movement and load into it, just to keep that sort of, that adaptation, so allow it to sort of stop being so cranky, but not give a complete rest where it sort of, I guess, loses that conditioning again.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They always used to explain to us, it's like as if you've got a glass, and if that glass was capacity, if you pour a cup of milk and you just don't stop, it's just going to overflow. And that's what they say with like a tendon. Pretend it's like a glass, and that's at your capacity. And if you rest, you have a smaller glass. So if you're constantly doing strength work and just volume, that's not doing too much, so you're not pouring too much milk so it goes over the rim, but you're just doing a little bit at a time, your glass is going to get bigger. So then your load, so your long, hard runs, your volume, all of that, you can handle a lot more by doing more within reason, because you've got a bigger glass of capacity. So it's all this kind of ratio of how much do you load it, and to how much your body can handle right now. And your goal is always you want to increase your capacity, so your load can keep increasing. So if you just increase your load without actually increasing kind of your years of running or your capacity, then you end up injured and with tendons inflamed. And the one thing that gives me a pet peeve is, tendons, it's all right to rest them for 3 days or to 6 days when they're in the reactive phase, but people that spend months off them because they're sore. Yep. Yeah, anyway.
Sure. All right, well, moving on to strength, if you could pick 3 strength or conditioning exercises for runners that should be doing in the gym, let's just call it all year round, what would they be? So that could be like just using body weight, resistance, therabands, weights, plyometrics, anything that you think that will sort of build that integrity and sort of robustness within the body. Just pick 3 of your best ones, Reece.
3 of my best ones. Number 1, calf raises. Yep. You need strong calves. That's going to help both, performance and preventing Achilles issues or many other issues. So calf raises off a step. So you're doing it, dropping your heel as low as you can up onto your toes. So you're going through your full ankle range. I feel like hamstrings are a kind of, no one talks about them so much, but then when they run a marathon or a race that is a bit faster than normal, they feel like their hamstrings cramp. So I actually get a lot of people that I run a class around here, and a lot of people I know, I do a lot of hamstring work on them now. So that's, we kind of do ones where it's like a single leg shoulder bridge off a bench, or a single leg deadlift. But yeah, a lot of hamstring strength. And then the last one is kind of doing like plyometric type stuff. So I actually add in bit of like high knee work and jump squats, just to kind of get the quads, hamstrings. It kind of gets all muscle groups. So yeah, I would actually add in a plyo exercise as really important. Something like your jump squats would probably be a good one.
Yep. And in your training, are you big on the hills? Do you love doing hill sprints, hill efforts?
I don't mind. I need to do them more.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, at least once a week, doing some sort of hills. Yeah, because that's the glute strength and kind of get that hip flexors happening. Hills are big. Yeah, really important.
Yeah, for sure. All right, mate. The last one. What do you feel is the biggest mistake that you see runners make when training, let's say, for a marathon? What's something that they get wrong that you see a lot? You know what? You know what? I don't judge anyone on how they build up to a marathon. Everyone's different. It actually annoys me when people say, "Oh, he's not going to have a good race because he trained like this or trained like that." Well, okay, let me reword that. How about what's one thing that you think people definitely need to have in their Monday to Sunday schedule if they want to run a good marathon, such as you think your long run's the most important one, some threshold running, some hill efforts, something that is definitely a key element.
I reckon like your longer tempo type stuff, which I didn't do before Chicago. So I reckon, even if it's a long run, it might only be 30 to 35 kilometres, but within that there might be 10K at the end that's a pickup, or even throughout you might, I think, you do kind of some minute efforts or things like that. So I think doing a long run with some sort of tempo or some sort of effort within the long run, anywhere from 30 to 35K, or that 2 to 2.5 hour mark, I think that's the one thing that from now on I'll always make sure is in my program, and I think everyone should, because I don't know, running long and running slow, I'm not sure how helpful that is. I'm not sure how much the evidence shows it's helpful either.
Yeah, yep, no, definitely. I mean, there's certainly the need for those easy recovery runs, but yeah, certainly not running a lot of your volume at a slower pace, especially when it's slower than marathon pace. So yeah, for sure. Mate, some great tips there. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for giving us your time tonight, being a guest on the Running Guy podcast. All the best with your future races. I'm going to put down some social links in the show details below for the listeners to follow along for the rest of your running journey. And thanks so much, Reece, for giving me your time on a Wednesday evening.
Awesome. Cheers, mate. It was a good chat.
Thanks, Reece. All right, thanks for tuning in to the Running Guy podcast again, guys. If you haven't already, please follow along, as the higher the follower count, the more chance the show will show up when other runners are searching for content to listen to help pass the time on their Sunday long runs. Follow the links in the show description below to join in the conversation on my social handles and become a member of the Running Guy Podcast Driver Club, as well as a link over to the Running Guy coaching website. My next two guests will be one of the country's leading sports psychologists working with numerous Olympic and national teams, and the other guest, if you follow trail running, you will certainly be very familiar with this guy. He's one of the big dogs of the world trail scene, so really excited to chat to those guys. That's it for now. Stay happy, stay healthy. Results will take care of themselves. See ya.